Kal Halal Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem Rakak Wadash. All praises, honor, and glory to the Most High Power, whose name is Yahweh. In the name of his Son Yahweh Shai, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus. In the name of the Rakak Kodash, the set-apart Spirit. Double honors unto the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, who teach us 100% truth. Salutations to the hopeful elect. Shalom, Yasharallah. The Power and Spirit has compelled me to share a broadcast from The World is One News in India with you. It's about 7 minutes long and speaks to the abuse of power by Big Pharma and the biotechnocrats, if you will. Really Esau Edom, greed, extortion, and global terrorism at the highest level, this time being wielded by the Fortune 500 supergiant Pfizer. This is Proverbs chapter 6, verse 16, and it reads, "These 6 things doth the Lord Yahweh hate, yea, 7 are an abomination unto him. A proud look," pride being the first mentioned because it is the root from where sins are committed. It is the very spirit of arrogance and haughtiness that speaks to Esau's nature, which has been passed down to Edom from generation to generation. Proud in the Hebrew of this verse is defined as to be high, to raise, to exalt oneself. "These 6 things doth the Lord Yahweh hate, yea, 7 are an abomination unto him. A proud look, a lying tongue," which speaks to the power of deceit, described by Elder Apostle Aramlab as being the second blessing bestowed on Esau. You can't bullshit the ultimate bullshitter. He's made quite a living of dealing in falsehoods, the hijacking of lands and people, including their identity, easily gaining possession with the trickery of his tongue. What he won't tell you is that for any viral strain to be patented legally, it would have to be manufactured, meaning man-made. You can't hold a patent on a natural occurrence. A patent on a natural occurrence is illegal. If it is in fact manufactured, then that is a violation of biological and chemical weapons treaties and laws. In either scenario, it's all illegal, meaning the pandemic, its proceeds, we know to be ill-gotten gains, are predicated on a lie. "And hands that shed innocent blood," deceit being the second of his blessings, well, the sword is his first. John 8:44, "Ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it." And that was Yahweh Shai cursing out the wicked Israelites, their father being Esau Edom, the so-called white man in the seat of the Roman Empire at that time. The murderer, speaking of Cain, who shed the innocent blood of his brother Abel, and Esau going back to the line of Cain in the spirit. Till this very day, he oppresses the northern kingdom in their land. The people who historically may have had skirmishes amongst themselves, but ultimately were found to be a people of peace. And so welcome the damn devil, Cristobal Colon, with open arms, who himself bragged that these children of God were so unsuspecting and naive they could be subjugated with ease, raping, robbing them in their land of its natural resources and pillaging it, later setting up themselves as the ruling establishment, sending in their economic hitmen after destabilizing the region. "And heart that deviseth wicked imaginations," like the creation of the CV-19 strain and its variants, an evil design really meant to impact we Israelites and devised against the Heavenly Father so they can usher in a new world order, declaring themselves as God. "Feet that be swift in running to mischief," Proverbs 1:16, "for their feet run to evil and make haste to shed blood." Speaking here to the greed of the already insanely rich, coupled with the mandate to decrease humanity by billions in sync with their depopulation agenda. Verse 19, "A false witness that speaketh lies." And you're about to see a lot of false witnessing going on in the George Floyd trial. Only a false witness would determine anyone opposed to a vaccine that has proven itself to be unsafe, having not foregone the standardized testing, a domestic terrorist. The real terrorist is Esau, the American government, and the international bankers. "And he that soweth discord among brethren," and this is exactly where we're at with his racial divide by social constructs. There is no such thing as black and white. You're either Israelite, Edomite, or of the other nations, and that in itself cannot completely be defined by phenotype, the amount of pigment in your skin or the lack thereof. The so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Indians, and those who may not look like the original Israelites scattered across the other nations, including India, but believe this truth, have been made to be separate for years because of the color lines drew by E, not knowing our shared nationality is Hebrew Israel. Division because of loyalty to a political party or an organized religion, and the battle of isms, socialism, classism. You get the gist of the ism schism. It's everywhere. One more scripture and we'll close this part of the lesson out. This is Isaiah chapter 59 verse 5, and it reads, "They hatch a cockatrice's eggs and weave the spider's web. He that eateth of their eggs dieth, and that which is crushed breaketh out into a viper." To hatch a cockatrice's egg is to spin a tale, to fabricate a lie and invent a fallacy. Esau entangles the other nations and the 2/3 of Israel concerning the vaccine, its effectiveness, and being safe with the lies that he weaves. Their web shall not become garments, neither shall they cover themselves with their works. Their works are works of iniquity, and the act of violence is in their hands. Jab well done, Esau. Almost. Close, but no cigar. They will not be able to cover their wicked acts with their lies. Their feet run to evil, and they make haste to shed innocent blood. Their thoughts are thoughts of iniquity. Wasting and destruction are in their paths. The way of peace they know not, and there is no judgment in their goings. They have made them crooked paths. Whosoever goeth therein shall not know peace. You as an Israelite can never find peace under labels of democracy, freedom, or justice. You will never be at rest under Edom's wicked system. Those that follow his crooked path in being vaccinated will never be safe. All the chemicals in the world provided by this snake oil salesman will not save you from Yahweh's judgment. Esau knows nothing but death and destruction. So is his legacy on the planet Earth, and so will he continue his reign until the coming of the Lord. On that day, all the bullshitting will stop. Call halal Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai Ba'Shem Rakakwadash. Through the power and spirit, I hope you are edified. Double honors unto the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who do rule well. Salutations to the hopeful elect. Peace and blessings to y'all. Don't take that test, don't take that jab, and damn sure don't take that chip.
And since we're discussing Pakistan, terrorism comes to mind. Terror comes in many forms, they say. Sometimes it's from the neighborhood, sometimes it's online, sometimes it's from those you entrust with saving lives. Vaccine makers, for example. While countries like India are sending free vaccines to poorer nations, there are companies like Pfizer which are bullying governments. It's a story in contrast, and what a stark contrast this is. The US-based company Pfizer is holding governments to ransom, interfering with their legislation, even demanding military bases as guarantee. Would you believe it? A vaccine maker asking for a country's military base in return for vaccines. On Gravitas tonight, we'll bring you two horror stories from Latin America and the bizarre demands that Pfizer is making. Let's start by looking at Pfizer's business in the region. It has vaccine deals with 9 Latin American countries: Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Mexico, Panama, Peru, and Uruguay. 2 major Latin American nations are missing from this list: Argentina and Brazil. Neither has a deal with Pfizer, but both have a story to tell. Let's start with Argentina. Talks between Argentina and Pfizer began in June 2020. In July, President Alberto Fernandez held a meeting with Pfizer's CEO in Argentina. Guess what followed? Pfizer asked to be compensated for the cost of any future lawsuits. What does that mean? Say someone files a civil lawsuit against Pfizer in Argentina, and if that person wins the case, who pays the compensation? It won't be Pfizer. It would be the government of Argentina. Now, Argentina had never done this before, but it made an exception. It needed life-saving vaccines, and desperate times call for desperate measures. So Argentina's parliament passed a new law in October 2020. But Pfizer was unhappy with its phrasing. The law said Pfizer needs to at least pay for negligence, for its own mistakes, if it happens to make any in future. Pfizer rejected this. it won't pay for its mistakes. Argentina then offered to amend the law to define negligence more clearly, to include only vaccine distribution and delivery under negligence. Pfizer was still not happy. It demanded the law be amended through a new decree. That's when Argentina put its foot down. They refused. Pfizer then asked Argentina to buy an international insurance. What for? To pay for potential future cases against the company. Argentina agreed. In December 2020, Pfizer came back with more demands. It wanted sovereign assets as collateral. What does that mean? Pfizer wanted Argentina to put, and listen to this, put its bank reserves, its military bases, and its embassy buildings at stake as collateral. Pfizer wanted Argentina to put its sovereignty at stake for what? Just to secure vaccines. There is no doubt that Pfizer is sitting on a pile of life-saving drugs. But what gives it the right to bully a government? Profiteering from your plight and mine. You see, vaccine manufacturers have always enjoyed a certain amount of liability waiver. Say you receive a vaccine from Pfizer, you have adverse effects because of the jab. You can always go ahead and file a lawsuit against the company. And if you win that lawsuit, instead of Pfizer, it will be the government that will be compensating you. And this is a normal practice. In the United States, for example, the PrEP Act, that's the Public Readiness and Emergency Preparedness Act, gives total immunity to companies like Pfizer and Moderna. But this is only if something goes wrong unintentionally. This does not apply to negligence. Pfizer is not happy with that. It wants more, not just sovereign assets, but a fraud insurance. Argentina was not okay with this. What about Brazil? What did Pfizer do in Brazil? The world's third most affected country. Pfizer went a step ahead and asked Brazil to create a guarantee fund and deposit money in a foreign bank account. On the 23rd of January 2021, Brazil's health ministry put out this statement, citing excerpts from Pfizer's pre-contract clauses. These are Pfizer's demands. Look at this. Number one, Brazil waives the sovereignty of its assets abroad in favor of Pfizer. This is a vaccine company. Number two, that the rules of the land be not applied on Pfizer. Number three, that Brazil take into consideration a delay in delivery. Number four, that Pfizer is not penalized for a delay in delivery. And number five, in case of any side effects, Pfizer be exempted from all civil liability. The government of Brazil calls these clauses abusive. And they're right. It goes without saying, the Pfizer deal with Brazil failed too. This is a report by the Bureau of Investigative Journalism. It talks about a third country, one whose deal with Pfizer was reportedly pushed back by 3 months. Why? Because Pfizer made similar bizarre demands. The company has just 2 billion doses to deliver this year, and that is on a first-come, first-served basis. A delay of 3 months can cost a whole year, and it can cost a lot of lives. Pfizer is playing with life-saving drugs. It is abusing its position, and having developed a vaccine with the help of government funding, it is now throwing tantrums at governments. Did you know that Pfizer's German partner, BioNTech, was given $445 million by the government of Germany? The US paid Pfizer $2 billion as early as July 2020. This was against pre-orders. Pfizer is looking at making $15 billion from vaccine sales this year. It is in talks with 100 countries and organizations. There is no dearth of money for this company. Why then is Pfizer bent on squeezing desperate countries of their assets? Like we showed you, 9 Latin American and Caribbean countries struck deals with Pfizer for vaccines. What did they have to give up in exchange? Military bases? Embassy buildings, sovereign funds. Look at Pfizer's hypocrisy. It is bullying poor countries behind closed doors. And in front of the press, it is playing Messiah. On the 22nd of January, Pfizer signed an agreement with COVAX, the Global Vaccine Alliance. It committed 40 million doses to poor countries this year. And the company put out a press release. You must listen to what they say. I want to read out a particular quote from Pfizer Chairman and CEO Albert Bourla. At Pfizer, he says, "We believe that every person deserves to be seen, heard and cared for. And that's why, from the very beginning of our vaccine development program, Pfizer and BioNTech have been firmly committed to working towards equitable and affordable access of COVID-19 vaccines for people around the world. Does this make you angry too? It's time we call out such companies that are out to profiteer from the pandemic.